these are not um, instruments, they're humans with a life. They have a wife, or they have a father or a mother or a child, or somebody connected that has an impact on how they will respond on on different occasions. And you got to pick that up.
My guest today started out as an aspiring lawyer, but instead chose a lifetime of service as a military officer. I'm of course speaking of Colonel Allan Douglas, and the Colonel spent some time with us to talk about his experiences and share his insights on leadership, service, integrity, and moral courage. Of course, I'm Devon Harris, and you've tuned in to Keep On Pushing TV. Welcome. This is where we share ideas and insights that are going to challenge and inspire you to keep on pushing and in the process, live your absolute best life. By the way, if you haven't done so yet, I invite you to subscribe to our channel, leave a comment below because it helps to grow our channel. Thanks so much and enjoy.
This is Keep On Pushing TV with Devon Harris.
Colonel Douglas, thank you so much for choosing to spend some time with us here. Welcome to Keep On Pushing.
Thank you very much for inviting me, Devon. It really is my pleasure to be here.
So usually when we're having a conversation like this, I'm in your office standing at attention in front of your desk, answering the questions, but now I have the pleasure of asking all the questions.
Those are the days. Stand easy.
Yes, I will. So just for full disclosure, we know each other well. You were my commanding officer when we both served in the 2nd Battalion.
Yes, I still have good recollections. In fact, behind me is a officer's mess photo with you included, standing there looking very smart. And young. You still look young.
Well, I don't know about the young part, but definitely I had to look smart because if my recollection is good, one whisper to the adjutant from you and I'll be spending some time doing extra duties. And for those of you who are not familiar, it's not a fun way for a young officer to be spending time.
Keeps the young officer in check. Thank God.
But Colonel, when people ask me about bobsledding, and I'll start there, I tell them that one day I was in my office working, and you were walking by, and it seems like on a whim, you called me and told me that I should go to the bobsled team trials. And I often say that you sent me to the team trials not because you thought I was this amazing athlete, but because of a philosophy in the Army that says officers must always participate. You had a bunch of enlisted men going to the team trials, and so you thought you'd send a young, fit officer. So you get a chance now, Colonel, to set the record straight. What were you thinking?
No, let me dispel some awful rumors that I just wanted to get rid of Devon Harris. That's the furthest thing from the truth. The truth is that really and truly, you're, young officer, very, very fit, super fit guy, and looked like the individual that would not give up, full of a lot of spunk and courage and determination. And we wanted to give our best. And I identified, and thank God I got that right, that you would go on to excel and bring us great, great, great pride. Geez, I tell you, here's a secret. The day I watched the performance, I actually went to my room in tears with pride, with joy. I mean, we weren't successful that first run, but, just the thought that a member of the battalion who, part of making the recommendation had gone on and to bring Jamaica so much pride and joy really filled my heart. Yeah, well done.
Well, thank you, sir. I'm glad you called me that day and you weren't sending me to the adjutant. Instead, you sent me to the box. Here we are. But I'm kind of curious. I definitely want to talk about your service in the JDF, but I'd love to get to know, Allan Douglas before he was Colonel Allan Douglas. So tell us a little bit about your.
Well, Allan Douglas is really, and I don't think I've ever changed. I've just been a country boy. I hail from Falmouth, which is probably still a country town, really, very small. Now it's a huge tourist shipping pier and so forth, cruise shipping pier. But it's really still a very quiet, sleepy town, and that's where I was born, in Falmouth. Grew up there. Went to the government primary school. It was then called the Barrack School, and then went on from there to Cornwall College, which I hated. because let's put it right perspective, that it was a boarding school, and I hated the idea of being away from home. And I spent most of my first, second, third form days just trying to escape back home. But and the rest of the time I spent trying to play football at Cornwall, and eventually O levels out of the way, I then went on to do A levels, and then to the UK, to university, and then decided that I would join the Jamaica Defence Force, and off to the UK training. Now, there's something that is, I think, I hardly speak about, but because I shy away from it, is that after I'd finished officer cadet training and passed out and so forth, and granted a commission, I wrote to the headquarters of the JDF requesting an attachment with a British unit in Northern Ireland. And they must have thought, wow, this guy is super keen. Let's really sock it to him. And they couldn't arrange such an attachment for me. So they attached me to the demonstration battalion in Warminster. And after which I spent some time, it then sent me on to the platoon commander's course. And I really thank Colonel Barnes, I gather, who made the decision that couldn't arrange an attachment for me in Northern Ireland, but would certainly arrange for me to be attached to the demonstration battalion, because that's, believe it or not, Devon, that's where I really got to find out about what command is about, what leadership is about, by just looking or studying the platoon commander of that demonstration, part of the demonstration battalion in Warminster. I learned so much. I'm a believer in attachments, by the way. Formal courses are great stuff, but attachments, you really get to see people up close and the real thing at work.
Yeah, awesome. So we're going to dive into that a little bit more, Colonel. But yes. Let me ask you, did you have siblings growing up?
Yes, I have 3 sisters. I was the only boy, or I am the only boy, and number 3 in line. But I had, as a youngster, I contracted pneumonia, and they didn't think I would make it. And so I was off school, or
how old were you then?
I was 4 plus going on 5, and contracted pneumonia and spent, I don't know, months upon months in hospital. And after being discharged, the doctor's recommendation was that I not be sent out to school, because they felt that my heart had been so weakened that it was not a good thing for me to be running around and with other children. So I stayed at home, confined here. So I really started out probably school at 5 plus, going on 6. So a lot of catching up to do. And it brings me to the point where my own daughter, who has 2 children, she keeps on telling me that, Dad, must send the children out to school, I'm saying to her, be careful with the children going out because of COVID. And I have to rely on my own experience to say, look, did me no harm really. Lot of catching up, lot of hard work, but children will catch up. No fear. So yeah, 3 wonderful sisters.
Awesome. So what kind of things did you get up to as a young boy running around?
Oh, darn it. As I said,
come on, Colonel, spill the beans.
Just about everything. Flying a kite, making kites, using my father's ties as the tail.
Really? How many whippings did you get for that?
I tell you, I really got some good ones. But I learned to swim. You know how I learned to swim? There's a wharf called Hamden Wharf, and went with some friends, boyhood friends in Falmouth, and they jumped off the wharf. I couldn't swim. I didn't know that I couldn't swim. I jumped in and I thought, oh, wow. I just paddled around, and from that day on, and nobody taught me to swim, and I just learned to swim. So I credit that wharf jump with my ability to swim. Yes, yeah. Right. So swim, flying kites, shooting birds with catapult. Falmouth wasn't a lot of mangrove areas. And so there was a lot of wading, but somehow we managed and really had great fun growing up. Really great. There's a huge property in Falmouth then called Race Course. I think it's now housing development. And spent most of our time there on that huge property, shooting birds, riding donkey or horses or whatever, anything that we could find to ride. So really very, very adventurous and a lot of activity. And then Cornwall spoiled all of that because
that's why you wanted to get back home to play.
Oh, darn it. Oh, yes. Too confining. And in those days, we had just come out of just gaining independence and so forth. And so there were very strict boarding schools and very, very, so far more disciplined than any, when I say discipline, meaning the rules were far greater than anything I've come across in the military. You did everything to the timing and by drills almost. So that was that boyhood days.
You mentioned your dad. What did he do?
Well, my dad, well, incredible man. He's my hero, of course. He was born in a place called Murray Mountain or Douglas Castle, and he went off with his father at the time of the building of the Panama Canal to Panama, and there his mother died, and so his father shipped him back to Jamaica, to Murray Mountain, and they decided that they wouldn't have anything to do with him. And they in turn shipped him off to his grandmother, who was bedridden, and grew up in Falmouth. Went to York Castle then. I think it was called Brownstown High School at the time, and eventually became article clerk to an attorney, a solicitor, and eventually became a lawyer. He then, at the time of breakout of the war, he joined the Jamaica Battalion and served there, reaching the rank of captain and adjutant of the battalion. And then he went back to his law practice and eventually entered politics and became a politician and a parish councillor and a member of the House of Representatives then, and eventually a member of Parliament, and became, I think, Jamaica's first Minister of Trade and Industry, and on another occasion as, I'm not sure whether he was the first Minister of Youth and Community Development, but he certainly held that ministry as well. But he hated politics. His first love, he would say to me, is of course his military service and his military career, and his second practice, law practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So after Cornwall, you said you went to the UK. What
Yeah.
did you study?
Yeah, I went to do law and fell in love. And my dad sort of took the position, well, if you're going to, get married and all of that, you got to go and earn some money. You can't be a student and have a wife, who's going to take care of her. It wasn't as hard, it wasn't a sort of, directive. But that was the sort of, although he endorsed and loved my wife, took the position that, let's be sensible about this, and it's not going to work. So I returned, and the plan really was to have joined the JDF, got the military service, followed in his footsteps, so to speak, and then in time go back to studying law. But that never happened. I fell in love totally with military service, and my entire youth really taken up with military service.
How old were you when you enlisted?
I was 20, 28, 19, 20? Yeah, 19, 20, yeah.
Was the selection board at the time?
Yeah.
The same as...
Same, and fantastic. I mean, geez, the whole setting, this is something completely new to me, and being thrown on the back of a 5-ton truck and up the hill to Newcastle, given a number and then referred to by a number throughout, doing all the different practical tests, was, I think, over a period of 2 days or 2 or 3 days. Was very exacting, very demanding, but very worthwhile. I mean, you really, you get to know the individual very well.
Yeah. Yeah, I often contend that the selection board, as I know it, is a fairest selection process I know, because who you are in terms of your background doesn't come into play. It's your
doesn't. Absolutely, just the number.
Yeah, it's what you present to the selecting officers that in the end determine whether or not you make it.
Indeed, Devon. Indeed, so true.
So you get selected and you go up to Sandhurst and you end up getting attached to this demonstration company. Colonel Barnes seems to be, because obviously he was very instrumental in bobsledding as well. So
and certainly a greatest influence on my military career.
Yeah. He's definitely a kingmaker. May he rest in peace.
Yeah.
So you started talking about some of the lessons you learned from this demonstration company while attached to them. Can you expand a little bit?
Yeah, as I say, Sandhurst is great, brilliant, and all the lessons are taught, and but it's an academy, it's a teaching environment. The real stuff out there is, as I say, being attached to like that demonstration battalion. It's the real world, let's put it that way. And they had to, because they're a demonstration battalion, had to be at peak performance. Everything they did, they knew they were going to be teaching lessons to, young officers and others. And so it had to be perfection. And I saw how that was achieved. The training, repeated training, rehearsals. And it really taught me to if you are really going to be successful at anything military, rehearsals are key. I also came to understand this business of leadership. I saw a platoon commander up close, attending to his platoon, their welfare, became a little father, really, and a young man, just at my age, and there were all these corporals who are 20, 30 going on, coming to him to solve problems, and how he listened to them and did everything in his power, and they having trust in him, and building up that team spirit. All of that influenced me greatly, really did. To listen. I think what I learned from the young officer, he went on to be a brigadier, is that listening. Most of the times he listened, and then he would turn to me and say, "Allan, I really didn't have the answer for that, but I understand the problem." And you were surprised, understanding the problem by listening. Very key.
Indeed. How long were you in the UK?
I was in the UK for what? A total, with the attachments and what have you, going on almost 2 years, I think. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and you weren't homesick?
Well, yes, but honestly, I'd fallen in love with this thing that I had joined. I realized that I had to get the knowledge. My really desire, my dream, my prayer, my everything was to be attached to a battalion or a unit in Northern Ireland. Why? Because I felt that was a setting that my career in the Jamaica Defence Force, that was relevant to my service in the JDF. Yeah, it's good to know, all the conventional stuff, but internal security was going to be my bread and butter. And I wanted to see that up close as well. It's one thing to go to Imber Village and to do all the internal security stuff there. But it's another thing, to see it up. I didn't get that chance, but as I said, the attachment was great, and also followed closely after that with the platoon commander's course was also super for me. Gave me a great start.
So you came back to Jamaica.
Yeah. Came back and I got thrown into Alpha Company as a platoon commander, and and decided that I would what I'd seen and been taught, I'd replicate. But then again, there's another world, right?
Yeah.
Different culture and so forth. So that took some adjustment too. But the principles are there, okay? Identical principles. And I loved my command. I had a great platoon sergeant who would always call me aside and say, "Mr. Douglas, I think you're going too far with that, sir." Kept me on the rails.
Yeah.
And it was good, really good.
Yeah, there's nothing like a good platoon sergeant. Before we delve into that some more, Colonel, let's jump back. So because you grew up, how old were you when Jamaica got independent?
I would stand in 62, and I was born in 48. So what was I then? 14? What's it? 13, 14? Yeah.
What about then? All right. So what do you remember about then? Well, I mean, so you obviously.
Oh, great! You know what? My father was definitely pro independence. His party that he belonged to wanted to be a country to become independent, but I didn't have bad experiences in terms of college. As I hated as a boarding school anyhow. The English teachers that were there at the time, there was a good mix. The headmaster was Jamaican, Mr. E.A. Barrett, but there was a good mix of Britishers and from the Caribbean too. We had people from Trinidad, Barbados on the teaching staff, so that was good. But Jamaica, there was order. There was a great deal of order. I don't know, as a youngster, I admired the fact that there seemed to have been so much respect for the police, so much respect for teachers, nurses, doctors were gods.
Yeah.
And but I didn't. I wasn't exposed to. I suppose Falmouth being so small, the issue of color. I wasn't exposed to that. I can't honestly say that I saw anything that switched me off as a youngster. Probably because, as I said, being in the country, things are much simpler. But I find there was greater order. I think we have. There are many things that we could have held on to that we threw away. And one of the few institutions that I think held on to its, what's the right word, heritage, its past, was the Jamaica Defence Force. There was a need. People and my father saw that there was a need for Jamaicans to take up some of the posts that were held by the Brits that were, formed the part of the colonial government, and to make decisions regarding our future. Those were admirable, and which I think we have done well with. I'm happy that, for instance, we have maintained the Westminster model. I believe in the Westminster model. I think it has served us well, and we can be proud of our democracy. And we have, thank God, we have had changes of government, albeit some, in a lot of violence during the political period. But honestly, I believe that we can be proud of the fact that we haven't had anyone holding on to power.
Right. Yes, indeed. Well, maybe it's because we don't have a Supreme Court. I don't know. But you mentioned that in Falmouth, the issue of color didn't come up, perhaps because we're such a small, well-knit community. At what point in your life did you start to sense that there is a difference between how Jamaicans and of African descent and those of Caucasian descent, and the class issue existed in Jamaica?
Yeah, good question. Let me put this. Probably I need to do this too. My own situation is that my father and mother never said to me or to the children, "Look, you are white," because we are not. I mean, there's so much mixed and what have you that we could never pretend. But believe it or not, the first time I really became aware of color was in the United Kingdom, unfortunately. I sort of said to me, oh dear, why? Oh, they're speaking to that person that way because that was my awakening, believe it or not, late as it was in my life. No, I and then you, of course, Jamaica's history of having.
Colonel, what was so at Sandhurst? What was, because obviously I think I probably
it's not so much. That's not so much Sandhurst. More my going to the UK as a student.
Right.
I became aware of that, I mean, I can't. I mean, terms such as half caste.
Mm-hmm.
I'd never heard of before, and I thought, what? People would say to me, "Are you a half caste?" And I would say, "What is that? What is a half caste?" And so things like that were, and I was up in way up in the northeast of England, Newcastle-Upon-Tyne, referred to as Geordie country, near upon to the border with Scotland. And, there are very few black people. I eventually joined what was known, in fact, that's how I met my wife, a West Indian Association, Newcastle-Upon-Tyne West Indian Association. I think I became the secretary of that association at one time. And it was around the time of Enoch Powell and the great racial strife in the UK at the time. And so very, very tense. I met my wife, would you believe this, through the association, but we became very close as a result of demonstration against the Springboks. It's a South African rugby team that was visiting Newcastle, and West Indian Association decided to demonstrate. And the police grabbed on to me during the demonstration, and my wife, weren't married then, but she was a member, I said, and she grabbed on and pulled me away from the policeman. And that's how we started.
Because you're damsel in shining armor, huh?
Something like that, yes.
So stole your heart, saved you from the cops and stole your heart.
She said she had sympathy on me, and I was an obnoxious, you know, what, Jamaican. She's my wife, as you know, is originally from Trinidad. She went to the UK with her mother and father when she was 3 years of age. Mother was a nurse midwife, and so she's Trini by birth, and spent all her young years in the UK, in England, the northeast of England, in fact.
So you're back to Jamaica. You're in Alpha Company 1GR, a young platoon commander, fresh from War Minister and platoon commander's battle course, and being attached to this demonstration company. And you have all these bright ideas. I think a lot of us come back to Jamaica with these bright ideas because we've just been trained. And
yes, right. You can't see your platoon.
You're a platoon commander, you have no platoon to command.
Yes, exactly. They're dished out all over the place.
You know, so the ideal starts to chip away, and you're right, there is this difference in culture in terms of, you know, what you've learned and what you want to implement and what the reality on the ground is. And you mentioned that you had a sergeant, and I think all of us are grateful to our sergeants who have been able to guide us. What other challenges did you have in those early days, you know, kind of relating to your soldiers?
Yeah, the first one that you mentioned was really having a platoon to do all the things that you were taught, right? That you know wanted to make them into this group, but they're either off on guard duties or patrolling in those days in Wareika Hills, or assisting the Jamaica Constabulary Force in maintaining law and order and the like, all over. But again, you had to be flexible in the sense, if they're on the guard station or numbers are at the guard station, go to the guard station and meet with them, see them, be with them. So that, and then of course, in those days, I don't know, things would have changed by the time you got on board, Devon. We had companies, being the training company, the internal security company, and the guard company. So, you know, you had that during the training company period, at least a month with your platoon. You know, you had to devise your own training program to be so flexible so as to be able to do all the things that you needed to do or wanted to do with your platoon. But I mentioned Wareika Hills. Been a lot of activity in Wareika Hills, and I became very disillusioned, Mark, with police, operating with the police. That was my great disappointment, because we had to work with them very closely in Wareika Hill, conducting patrols, and they certainly were not. They're more a humbug, more than anything else. Unfortunately, I have to say that. My other encounter with them, and it really hurt me. I tell you, early days when I decided that, wow, no, I'm not in this, was seeing police brutality at work. And it had to do, my platoon was summoned to Waurika Hills because of a bank robbery that had just taken place, and the robbers had taken off to Waurika Hills. And we're thrown in the back of this 5-ton truck, the platoon anyhow, and Land Rover, and raced to the foot of Waurika Hills. And I saw this huge crowd, Devon. And when I got there, I thought, what the hell has happened? They must have killed one of the robbers or something. Huge crowd. And I came out, and there was all this shouting and chatter, and really total confusion. And I made my way through the crowd and kept on asking what had happened. And eventually somebody said, oh, the police have one of the robbers by the Guinea tree, and went there. And oh my God, I to this day, that image still stands out in my mind. I've never seen one human get so many kicks and hit, and I mean, so I came up and I said, no, stop. And the policeman turned to me and said, well, what happened, sir? What happened? So I said, no, why are you doing that? There's one of thief boy, them side thief boy, not tell you where the other people there. So I said, no, but that is not. And that man that was being beaten, blood all over his face, holding his on the ground, right? No weapons on him, no nothing. He turned to me, and I'll never forget this, turned to me and said, look, you see, Essa, even if me didn't know where the other man them there, me nah go tell them. In other words, gee, God, you're beating this man, kicking him, gun bottoming, doing all these things, and really expecting them to say, okay, the others are up there. And that I've never forgotten that. That's my first encounter of Jamaican state brutality or police brutality. That Guinea tree incident.
That's a challenge. I think it's a challenge just in the way we have been conditioned to expect the security forces on a whole to operate. I mean, my background already, and I grew up seeing that kind of stuff, and I was always very mindful when I was back in those environments, back in my old neighborhood or other parts of the inner city, not to perpetrate that kind of, behavior. But it's kind of interesting because Waurika Hills, I was Alpha Company 2 jar when I just got back.
Yes.
And my first operation was the Waurika Hills. And every time I hear it, I kind of smile because I remember how we used to go look for terrorists. How the meaning of terrorism has changed, right?
Indeed. It's how we relate and how we relate to each other. I think is a major issue, and how we are able to condition those that serve to relate to the public. I see it. I read about it now. That is still continuous. I think we didn't do well with different incidents. We certainly, Green Bay was awful, a scar. I think we did repeated Green Bay, upped Green Bay threefold with Tivoli 2010. We have had the crawlings. We have had so many of these incidents, of state brutality, and we are not going to win this. Excuse the term to use the word, war by treating those that we suspect or, those that have broken the law in that fashion. That's not how it's done.
Well, it's kind of interesting because you spoke earlier about colonialism and the law and order, so to speak, that existed there. Yeah. And there's a part of me that sometimes feel like, not just in Jamaica, across the Caribbean, we have become more colonial than our colonial masters.
Yes, absolutely.
One of the gripes I have with our country is this amazingly sacred song that we sing, the national anthem. And there's a line in it that says, "Teach us true respect for all." Yeah. And when I hear the word all, there's nothing qualifying in it. There's no exemption. It's not teach us true respect for all except.
Yeah.
I think once we start to believe and practice the true meaning of that word all, I think some of the stuff that we're talking about will dissipate. But
absolutely,
we're not.
Absolutely. Devon, I keep on right anyhow of the Morant Bay Rebellion, okay, Governor Eyre or whatever his name is. Mm-hmm. And when I compare Governor Eyre's treatment or that rebellion, right, slaughter of people and so forth, with how we responded as Jamaicans, one to the other, with Green Bay, with Tivoli 2010, I'm astonished. Governor Eyre it didn't take them 5 years to convene a board of inquiry all the way back in London. He got out of Jamaica, didn't get his pension, and all of that stuff. What we do is that 5 years after an incident, we convene a commission of inquiry. We find no one guilty of anything, and they get promoted. I suppose we are still a young country and all of that, but really, that's where we need to.
In a bit, but let me ask you, because the first time I'm meeting you, I'm an officer cadet now in Newcastle. I was, Major Douglas sent for me. He was SO admin, and
okay.
To say I was nervous is an understatement. And of course the soldiers like, make sure you have sense, and I was, you had called me down to talk to me about the fact that I was heading off to Sandhurst, and this is how much I was going to get paid, and so I can plan. And to be honest, I didn't care about how much. I would have gone for free. Just send me somewhere, anywhere.
Away from Newcastle, right?
Yes, exactly. Anywhere. But what I think I was getting the first glimpse, Colonel, of something that you're reputed for. You're reputed for being an officer who is really great at admin. You really think about the men's welfare, and of course you're a strict disciplinarian. Where did that, is that from your attachment to that demonstration company? Where did you form that leadership philosophy?
Wow. In terms of discipline, I think, although I hated boarding school, that's, I believe, and from my own home, my dad was an ex-military man, and he was a no-nonsense guy, very strict too. Like me, he had a very short fuse. But no. So let's see. Boarding school. I think the lesson regarding admin really came with that, believe it or not, that demonstration battalion. So critical. I saw what it is, what motivated that platoon that I was attached to directly. 30-odd people with their equipment and their vehicles and so forth. What motivated them? That somebody cared. That platoon commander knew history of every single member of that platoon, their names, their children's name, their wives' name, you name it, he knew it. and that impressed me, how to get people to feel a part of this team. Of course, admin is critical to anything, and how to really make sure things happening at the right time, in the right place, and is so important to any military undertaking. Very, very important.
Is that the advice you'd have for a young officer, coming back?
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Important to know the craft, the operational craft, and what have you, all the wonderful stuff out there, the military doctrine, tactics, what have you. But be mindful of that admin side of things. It won't happen. The operation won't happen unless there is that powerful, efficient logistic tail, the administration working. Recognizing that one, I keep on telling, we all have lives, yeah? We all have lives, and watch for that individual. I would say to young officers, each individual has a life. That's what happens when you become a leader. You sometimes forget that these are not instruments, they're humans with a life. They have a wife, or they have a father or a mother or a child, or somebody connected that has an impact on how they will respond on any, on different occasions. And you got to pick that up. You'll have to sense that Devon is having a problem. What is that problem, right? Can I assist with Devon with sorting out that problem? Very, very important.
Yeah, I think we sometimes forget because, granted, we live, eat, and breathe Army 24/7. I think sometimes, and because of the culture, there's a mission to be accomplished. Nothing, is more important than accomplishing that mission. That we sometimes forget that, as you say, your men are not simply instruments of production. They are real people with real lives, quite frankly, outside of the Army, that goes in conjunction with that 24/7 Army air that we breathe. And it was one of my observations when I served as well, quite frankly, at all levels, not just with officers, but senior NCOs would often loathe giving a soldier time off, which to a soldier was like gold, diamond.
Yeah.
Not recognizing that you giving a soldier time to just go take care of this one issue recharges him and it energizes the rest of the unit.
Absolutely.
Because then that when their issue arises, they're going to be taken care of.
Yeah. I think what happens with when we're young officers, we fall in love with ourselves to the point where we believe that to do anything like attending to the welfare of our soldiers is being soft. Okay? Yeah. That you must be this stern, strong, don't give a damn, don't tell me about your child, don't tell me about, it's not it. You can be firm as anything, but you must, suppose the word which another of my heroes, Barack Obama, uses over and over in leadership is a word called empathy, right? Not necessarily sympathy, but empathy, trying to put yourself in that individual shoes, and experience what he's going through, the impact of that on him. Very, very, very important for the leader to understand that.
Indeed. So talk about leadership. At Sandhurst, the first time I heard the term moral courage, or first time I heard the term moral courage was at Sandhurst, and you alluded to Green Bay a couple of times in our conversation. And when I think of Green Bay, and I'm going to use the word role loosely here, your role in Green Bay, I think of moral courage, i.e. doing what you think is right regardless of the consequences. Speak to us about that role and the impact it has had on your career and Allan Douglas personally.
Yeah. Well, I suppose your listeners and you understand the background to Green Bay. What is important is that leader has to understand that the institution, right, is more important. The preservation of the integrity of an institution is more important than your advancement as an individual. Okay, and with Green Bay, what I saw was that we were in the process, that is the JDF, or the hierarchy of the JDF at the time, the process of destroying itself. You follow me? Because people wanted to advance their own careers, right? And, to lie to the public because you wanted to say the JDF successfully wiped out gang members. And for me to discover that that was not true could not have me continuing to know the truth and to keep quiet about it. And that's my disappointment with leadership, that in my now adopted country, I'm finding a little bit of a turn-off, is that there are men that know the truth of things, and because they want to advance their political careers or their careers, they zip up. That can't be good for an institution. It can't be good for a country, right? What is important is the integrity of the institution, the integrity of the country. And for me, I had a choice, Devon, as we all do. And in my case, I could have said, okay, I want nothing to do with the JDF, want out, and I run, okay? Or stand and fight. And I chose to stand and fight. I chose to speak the truth. I lost many friends. Oh, well, just about every friend I had during that period. It was a lonely period because one had to give evidence against that contradicted the official JDF version. And I'm proud of it. I'm proud of what I did because I believe that had the truth not come out, we would have had many more Green Bays, many more Green Bays. And the JDF would have, I think, suffered it along. The reputation that the Jamaica Defence Force, happy, still has to this day, despite, Tivoli and Green Bay and the others, Michael Gale and so forth, is a result of the Army on a whole behaving professionally and men of truth and, integrity. And that has to be preserved.
How did you deal with the loneliness during that time?
Good wife, very good wife, and loving mother-in-law, and of course the good Lord. I really, and that's important too. Very, very important to the whole business of leadership. To have faith, and if you're a Christian and you believe in a Lord, hold tight to Him, pray. Prayer, and I say prayer, and a good wife, good mother-in-law, good parents stood by me the whole time. There weren't many people around that saw things the way that I did, and probably to this day, I probably still have enemies as a result of it, but hopefully one day they will understand. I hope.
So outside of the how it impacted your military career. Did it impact Allan Douglas, the person?
Made me stronger. Made me much stronger. Because I believed in what I was doing. I knew what I was doing was right. It certainly drew me closer to religion, my faith, and as a Catholic, I think it made me have to understand that I had to live these values from here onwards. Follow me? It can't be a one-off. It had to continue. I had to be that person because I'm comfortable with that person.
Yeah. So, Colonel, after the JDF, fill us in. What did you do?
Oh, after the JDF. Well, so we're coming up on the retirement time, okay? After 31 years, fabulous with her. My wife worked with American Airlines, and the children, thank God, were doing extraordinarily well at school, yeah, in Jamaica. My daughter was doing very well. She was at camp here. And my son had just entered camp here, but Alana, my daughter, doing extraordinarily well. And we sort of came to the determination that, darn it, we don't have any savings. Where can we send them? I mean, yes. And they had, even as youngsters, they had ambition to do all sort of things with their further education university. So my wife said, look, I'm with American Airlines and they offer from time to time transfers to United States, from Jamaica. And so she applied and she got accepted to work in Miami. And so that sort of, the direction then was to emigrate on retirement. So she went 1 year ahead of my compulsory retirement date and established in the United States, in Miami. Eventually brought up the children. As I said, my daughter had just finished O-levels, did very well. And but there again, she was very young. She needed to mature, and we needed to be able to have the ability to get her scholarships. So she went into a high school here, having graduated from Campion, and with her O-levels, went into a high school here, did a year here, and was able to apply for scholarships and got scholarships to go on to UM and the like. My son also came up, and he had only been in first form at Campion, so he had to start right again. So I on retirement came to the United States and thought, well, piece of cake, Devon, have everything all set. Didn't know what I was coming to do. Got a lot of promises from Americans here and there, but when Americans give you a promise when you're in Jamaica, watch out.
Yeah.
And you get there is a different story. But no, my naivety on that score, and so I had to go fishing around for a job, and I must tell you the story. I eventually got a very fairly large security company in South Florida, in Miami. Took me on as their director of operations, and I'll never ever forget that my first encounter with civilians. Now, you must understand this. All my life, I'm with the military, and I expect everybody to come to my office and stand to attention, and say yes sir, no sir, what have you. And so this young lady from, I think she said she was from Alabama, asked to see me, came into my office. And the first thing that struck me is that "Hi, Allan." So I said, "What? Who the hell is this?" And proceeded to, without my inviting her, to slap herself down on the chair. And so she says, so I said, "Yes, how can I help you?" She says, "Well, Allan, I came because I wanted to introduce myself. I am Viola, or whatever her name was. My birthday is in another few weeks." Oh, Devon, I made the biggest mistake, right? Having said that her birthday was a few weeks, happened to be in July, I said, "Oh, you are a Cancerian like myself. You're born in July." The lady, she got up out of the chair, slapped on my hand on the desk. "Get out of here," she says. Here's a man. Please forgive me, Devon. You will understand this, but to others might say, "What is he going on about?" This is after 30 odd years, okay? As you pointed out at the beginning of the interview, coming into office, standing ramrod stiff, right? Saluting, "Morning, sir," what have you, and you don't speak until you're spoken to, etc. And then exposed to this.
Slapped on the wrist and told to get out of here.
No, believe it or not, that my driving that evening, from the office, it was about a 40, 50-minute drive. This is in North Miami. I live way down in the South Miami. And I laughed until I cried when I sort of replayed the thing in my mind, what had taken place, you know. So that was that experience, working with a very large security company. And then that I changed to an opportunity to be a GM of another company, another security outfit in South Miami, nearer to home, and gave me that latitude that I felt I needed to establish my own budget, what have you, to command again. And truthfully, it paid a little bit more too. So that having now, then that company wound down its operations. It was a part of a larger group of companies in South Florida. And so again, I found myself out of a job. And then my good friend's wife, Mrs. Joan Webley, was on a visit. And as I said, Glenn was my very, very good friend when I was in the JDF, and I came to know Mrs. Webley through Glenn, and on a visit. And she had now just become the executive director of the National Solid Waste Management Authority. And so she said to me, "Are you interested in returning to Jamaica? Because, you know, you could always apply," which I did do. I applied, and I was interviewed by the board and found suitable, and I came on board to be at National Solid Waste Management as Director of Operations. And what I did, 4 years there. And after my contract was not renewed. I think there was a change of government or something. I don't know what the hell happened there. But then I'm now with a company called Longport Aviation. Longport Aviation deals with aviation security. And it's in a total of 17 countries altogether. And I have, one of my responsibilities is the company that has since 2016 been established in Jamaica. I oversee that company and other Trinidad as well. So I'm able to work from home. So that's been my after JDF activities.
Indeed. So, so after the shock of getting slapped on the wrist and totally, what have you found to be the biggest challenge in transitioning from leading a military unit to leading in civilian life?
Well, the pace at which things are done. I find in the civilian world, the whole business of the chain of command is really more paper than in practice. I find some degree of unease with what's the right word? Lack of loyalty. Misunderstanding the word loyalty, let's put it that way. But there's greater flexibility. It's certainly not as rigid as a military. You have to adjust, and the adjustment, it again depends on yourself. If you're thinking that you're God's gift to everything, then you're not going to make the adjustment. You have to look and say, okay, this is the civilian world. This is the way they do it. Does it work? Yep. Can I improve it? Yep. And make those adjustments as you go along. Of course, in all of this, is the whole business of technology. The Zoom meetings or everything. I'm still looking around for filing cabinets with lovely letters on it, and it's all there on the computer.
Right.
So you have to make all those adjustments, get with it, and quickly.
Yeah, indeed. Colonel, it's been enlightening, and it's great to be able to catch up with you and have this conversation with relative ease, where I'm not, standing straight, and saluting and
no.
watching my work carefully.
Yeah. Thank you very much for having me. It's been my pleasure. And again, Devon, so very proud of you. I always have to show off, that I still keep that wonderful book that you gave me, and the very, very kind remarks. I cherish this. And I show when my children dismiss me, oh, Dad, oh, good God. Oh, I keep on saying, well, there's somebody in this world who thinks I was something. Thank you, Devon, for having me.
No, well, I thank you. I thank you for the guidance and the leadership you gave to me while we served together, and for definitely influence. You've been a mentor and a cheerleader these days as well. So I appreciate you what you did back then, and I certainly appreciate you being on the show. Keep on pushing. Yeah, you epitomize that philosophy, Colonel, of keep on pushing. So thank you.
Thank you very much. God bless you. Very good. Bye-bye.